thoughts, I mean, on the practical side, okay?
Yeah.
So we are using this specific type of silicone or a silicone of this type doesn't have this brand. I learned from my teacher using this brand, and then I was using it, but then at some point they stopped producing it. I took another one. But now they produce it again, so we don't have this one. That's this specific type, and I don't remember, so I don't have it in my head. What it is, but at least if you have this, I mean, how this kind of silicone was named, but if you have this, you can find out. So the reason we are using this in senior research, and I think this is why we need it also, is because it can imprint the rates of the micrometers very, very fast. Because really just shows you everything in us that you need to see. Even if you have an Italian that's smaller also 1 millimeter. In us, an Italian smaller than an Italian smaller than 1 centimeter means in us that the motifs in it are smaller than the 1 centimeter. Okay, so that you can get. And then if you have a motif that is smaller than 1 centimeter, then you have a human, and then you have a hand of the motif, then it is really, really small. So we were using this, and we're still using this type of material when we want to have to impress very fine or to cast very fine details. Now, there are, as we said, several issues, as you said, also several issues with making impressions, I think, from any material. That you are dealing now with objects that are also fragile. So in anything that one does with these materials, and I think with this, one has to keep in mind that there is a danger when they are doing it, that they're damaging the object. So when you do it and you decide that your object is in a state good enough in order to do it. So first of all, you have to assess whether your object is in a state good enough to take an impression. Then if you say it is in that state, then you have to think, okay, if it's in a state good enough an impression, which material is appropriate for it? Maybe silicone is not appropriate, but very, very, very soft glass. It might be more appropriate so that you will not damage your object. Yes, so
This is fragile. That's why I've chosen it.
but it's still okay. So that's us. Okay, yes, okay. No, it's powdery, okay.
Yes.
Nice, yes. So in cases where you have that powdery materials, and maybe they are not, is it vague?
No?
Yes. Yes. You have to think twice. You obviously want to think twice because you are also in the museums and you have to keep something back. It is artistic, and you want to continue working there. And you also, apart from this, you don't want to download the object. So you have to think twice. I would think twice. I don't know how I would behave this. Let me behave to this.
No, like, let's see if it's destroyed, that's fair.
But it will certainly, okay, when you are using, let's go silicone for the plastic. No. Okay, now, so I just told you some general aspects. Let's say now, because you are not interested in glass, but we are interested in silicone. Let's say we have decided that silicone is the best way to document this object. I do not have an object. Now we have some difference between us and what you are doing. And one of these could be, but you said this is not always a big difference. One of these could be that we very often have to deal with very small objects. And for very small objects, then we choose to use this fluid silicone, which are. I have to fix this in here. Now. Okay. Okay, I'm going to fix this. What we are doing is we are using this fluid silicone, which is operated with this piston. Okay. When We are doing this because we have this two, how do you call them in English? Canulen? Canus, you call them canus? Tubes. At the end of this, you can put another tube, which we will find in here. And then at the end of this tube, you can put a tip. And this tip enables you to put a very small amount of silicone on the impression. And you can work with a little brush. Do you have brushes here? Then
Yes,
you can work with a little brush and push your silicone which you want to impress. Now, so we use this if we want to take the impression of a small object. Let's say in this case, I can use with a clip or with that. Now, if you have, yes.
Marina, my suggestion is that we will do like 3 imprints in all techniques from all those 3 objects. And then we will compare how the objects behave after this experiment, whether they survive or not. And then we will compare the imprints. But it's important that we make them from the same objects. And because I mean, this is still not so big. So here we have textile impression all over the object. But here we can just choose like a small part of it, like for example, only this. And here we can choose like only this, because this is the less legible impression. So for us, it's the less we know, the better we need to understand it. So I will choose like that one.
I think you can use this because it has a the break.
Okay, but this was wool and wool is always meant. So let's make the nasty. Yes, so let's make 4. Yes.
Sort of discuss it, or should I?
Okay, okay, so that would be our samples. Shall we perhaps show them to camera or not camera?
Yes, okay, what I want to have to do is here, so because I made mine like years ago, and I now have it ready, so I want to do this. I have to.
No, take your time, so maybe we can just, I don't know, show to camera what we are going to do.
I'm just going on.
And I won't take examples of these issues.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have here a instruction. Because this probably
I got that.
Yeah. Oh, I can see that. It's not right over.
Oh my.
So, I'm going to. Now, I'm going, do we have time that I tell you how exactly?
Yes.
So I'm going to tell you some things now, since you put this and you told me, okay, let's just do this. And so one possibility is you want to document something small. Okay, each of you can decide when you work with it, which method you will use. So if you want, okay, document. Oh no, which is
Monica knows it. Monica, maybe you got to ask what you thought.
No, they are a little bit different than the ones I had, because I don't use plasticine anymore.
But they gave
I
us
think you
this
have
family.
it.
So we have.
Oh, but did it also without it? Okay. No. No, the things, no.
No, please.
The yellow, I told you that they are transparent.
So Monica,
Although they change.
do we have, or maybe we do not,
You do not, that's enough.
the tips?
And we have,
We have, like, Monica, we want to benefit from Monica. And
you have the bigger ones, but there are sticks that you put here. I never, it doesn't matter, if you don't have it, it doesn't matter. So, I'm just telling you, and then you can find them at what made it and what you want this. So there are no three possibilities, we have these objects here, and let's say, I mean, this would be also enough, so just one object is enough to show what we want to do. So one possibility is you want to have very fine detail in here. You want to see the string, just the string here, and a small part of this is enough. What I would do is I would take this. This is already small, very small, because the ones that I have home they are bigger. But I would still, in this small one, put a little tip. There is like a little tip. You have some bend,
yes,
so that I can show you how it looks.
there was like,
Okay, this one. So you have your tube, you have your tube, and this is the end of the tube, and there are little plastic tips that look like this, and they have they essentially make the opening from which the silicone comes out smaller. So if I want to work on this, I would put a tip on it. Okay. The other possibility is, look, I want maybe to I want to do this surface. But maybe I want, this is interesting to me, but maybe I want to make a larger surface. Then you could try, I don't work like this, but I've seen in the CMS they work like this, because they can't have done larger surfaces without the tip. With the tip, you could try just like this. If you want to have a larger surface, I wouldn't necessarily put the tip, and you could work with this.
so let us try to improve the way.
Yes.
So let us try like, because in each case we will have
Just
like,
this,
yes, yes.
But I want to say another thing, that if you want to take the whole of this, okay, you could manage it with it, but if you have a larger thing, you might have a larger thing, then you would go super bad.
Okay,
Although I've seen on the CMS sometimes they have these larger ones, but I go for patty. Although this is a finest thing, you know this also, this is the finest thing that you can use, it's fine in the finest thing. But I don't know, do you have larger shells? In fact, what we have seen, we have larger shells, it's not, we have storages of vessels that have, services of vessels that have to be documented. And in these cases, I see that they are using also some kind of patty. I learned from them that to use some kind of patty, but in some cases, I see that they had larger tubes at least as this thing. Now, this thing, let's go to the challenges. Yes.
For people who are fully, and then we can show the animation.
Not very professional.
Okay, so, okay, do you have? Okay, no.
no,
Okay, but I can take those.
we have scissors. You want scissors, do you want to cut the brushes? You can.
I can show you, I don't need to cut them. So there are things, you have to find them out with yourself when you are working. So what I would do, I have this, you have this, I have a plexiglass under it or something. So I don't obviously put it in the table like you don't, you put it an A4, or you can have a larger piece of paper. I use like rice paper, which you can stick on your surface. This is also, I think, better when you're in the museum and everything, because always you have to take things as you found them, so it's less work for you afterwards to clean everything. As I said, I had a plexiglass, but I have also worked because I didn't have a large enough plexiglass. I have a small plexiglass. If my objects were more, you could also use kind of a rice paper and you can stick on the surface. Now, what you want to do So you inspected your material and you saw it's good. Okay, some practical thing, I always wash my hands, and if I can, I also put some alcohol in them. Anyway, your hands, they already have fat anyway, they have oil anyway. So I didn't learn this, but I do it, and I take out that, I wear it, so I think my
So you want to take gloves?
Yes, so there are museums which will make you wear gloves. I can try to do this with gloves. The small one, I prefer to work without gloves because I think, yes, I feel like I can have.
No, you can also, I can open it and you can decide whether you really want to, with gloves or not.
In some museums, you have to work with gloves because you are not allowed to touch the object without. But obviously, when you watch the gloves, you do not touch and such a good control, I think, of your material, of what you do it as you have it without gloves. Obviously, a surgeon will say that I am talking rubbish, because a surgeon does all his work with gloves. And if you have people, what I would do is I would wear a mask because I'm dealing with time. Again, I'm not going to wear a mask, but I would wear a mask if I'm using a lot of time. You have your objects and you want to document. Now let me remember what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is I also have another surface somewhere. I can
Marek?
we didn't compare this also that we can answer for that. I think. Okay. So yes, you can use it. You can maybe take one. This is a big one. What type is it without
Like technical time.
Okay, technical. You could take also food powder. If you take food powder, however, it is good that you find the one with food powder that doesn't have all these perfumes and all these added ingredients. What I've learned from a conservator in Venus is that she prefers to use calcium carbonate because it's just pure target. I would wear the mask again if calcium carbonate for sure. And food powder, it's finer than baby powder, just an information. And I find that calcium carbonate is even finer. So whenever I had the calcium carbonate which she gave me, I worked even better with it. So I would suggest that you do it. So the question is, if you have your object, now you might have an object like this, or you might have an object like this, it's difficult. So you have to stabilize it. You have to find a way to stabilize it. I stabilize it with plasticine. If you use plasticine, it's good that you find one that's not too oily. When you have an object which we are going to put silicone in it, you can also leave oil like marking it. So you want to try to minimize any effect that your materials might actually have. That's really still social. So I can give you on your ones. That can have on your object. So you kind of stabilize it, I would say, in a way. Let's stabilize this. Now you can stabilize it more professionally, or you might find other ways. Not using plasticine to stabilize it, but I'm not a conservator, so I don't really work that much with it. But I think conservators, that this is their job. I've spoken with some, make like special kind of base made of materials that do not affect your ceiling at all. For example, styrofoam. Styrofoam in English? Styrofoam you call it?
I think so.
Yes. I've tried it once or twice, but it was too much work for me, so I stopped doing it. So you have to stabilize in one way or the other your object. And now the question is, now again, if you have, here I have one object. If you have many tiny objects, stabilize them all together, because when you this is expensive, and you will see now that it becomes hard very fast. which means that every time this becomes hard, you have to change this. So this is a matter of cost and time, and so if you can do 3 at a time, it is good.
Or even more.
Or even more, yes.
You think so?
If you can, yes. If you can, if you get it, if you manage to do it, yes. I don't get it, and I'm actually also hesitant always, doing 3, and I want them to have work there. But yes, if you have it, you can do 5, 6, 10. I don't know how many you can do. Now, there is something that I want to say, comes in my head, and I always forget. Yes, this is important with whatever kind of silicone you have, and I think this is important that you have it in your head. You always have the part of the silicone and the one that hardens it. Okay. Sorry, I'm not using the technical terminology, but I think you get.
Yeah, maybe it's that.
Because I came unprepared, or not unprepared for the, I didn't look
No,
again
but
at the
we
technical
want to
terminology, it's something that I know out of my experience. So what you do always, so this shouldn't be moving, okay? You should have it. Wait, okay, it shouldn't be moving, because obviously if it's moving, you cannot work well.
So we'll like-
Yeah,
well, come
okay, but I don't think, yeah.
So I bring the,
If I want to bring them,
but then I want this.
I know, I can wait. If it's not very. I can wait for a second.
We can't continue because Marek will come back with.
It is important whether you using this or any other, any other silicone that you are using, that you make sure that it is fine, it works. So you might have, sometimes you have very old silicones, but you have new silicones, and you want, they should work, because they go into the maps and everything, but you have to make sure it works before you apply it to apply to anything. So every new kind of tube, you say, every time you open a tube, whether it is a tube that you have already opened and you used in your last research trip, or even yesterday, I'm very careful with this, right? Or when you have a new one, then I would first do this and leave it dry. Then, at the moment I am sure that it's dry, then I have wasted one of these, because I've wasted it. But I'm sure that I will not have a circumstance which nobody wants to have, in which there's a problem with this, and the silicone does not work well with the hardener, and it stays on your object. Because the moment this stays on your object in a fluid state, you destroy the object. You cannot get it out, at least in my experience. Well, actually, I didn't have this. But I
Also,
on an object.
like pottery with traces of silicone.
Well, this was where silicone worked. Sorry, but I'm going to come to this because, okay, I think this was when silicone worked. I think I haven't, but this thing, if you touch it now, it is, I mean, it's like paste, you can't get it out. I have never had, and I have to tell you, never had once in the years that I'm working, but I'm not working every day in this field. I'm working in the summers when I have to document material. I've never had this thing not working. But I learned this because I learned it because I learned it from somebody who told me to do this. Because otherwise, yes. So I would do this. I would wait. It takes normally this would take like the longest 20 seconds to dry, 20 minutes to dry. In my experience, it dries much faster. And if you're in the summer, it dries very fast. Okay. So the moment you are sure this works, then you can continue.
So you need the norm.
Yes, so this needs to be next to you. So and what we are doing, I don't you buy also these extra ones. If you go, you will see sometimes that these are not enough. And you always want to have the extra ones. So you always want to have the extra ones anyway, because you do not want to be at the museum to have organized everything, and then the things you are missing are this. This is a big problem. So at the moment, no, it's still there. text here for it's for.
But usually it's faster, I think.
But these are modern ones.
Yes, these are modern, don't worry.
One is to move on to base.
Yeah.
So, but normally you wait for this.
Okay, now you can start the parts.
Okay, so normally you wait, you see it works fine, and then you can continue.
Now
In this case here,
we are in this lucky situation that in case it's not drying, we can continue with other. Enough? Enough.
yes, okay, normally you do it on all sides, but that's now it's enough. So you have it stabilized. What you will need next to you is you will need to have the powder. I would have a soft, you've got hard ones, yeah, because I didn't talk about the soft one, but you would need to have also some soft brushes, so that you can apply carefully your dark powder on the surface. Now this doesn't apply very well because it's hard. Sorry, I didn't tell you to get soft ones. But it doesn't matter. This is not interesting, especially since you are dealing with clay. You do not want to, you can. It is good if you avoid to put the hard surface, the hard brush on it. You're going to put a silicone on it. You can ask the hard brush. Is your problem. If you can avoid it, then there's no reason to actually put the hard brush on it. Now, you put the soft brush.
So it's not like a
No, it's called the makeup brush, I think.
brushes.
Makeup brush.
No, the soft ones. No, the soft ones are used for painting.
Okay.
There are very nice soft ones used for painting, because very flexible. So I find they work very well. Put a fine layer of talc. Now, to your question, I was always wondering, I don't mean to, and I always go back to my notes that I have from when I was working at the institute with people that were using this technique, and I always find both of them suggesting that also here on when you're working with clay, it is good to put talc for two reasons. The one is it does function as a way to create a very soft, a very fine layer between your object and your silicone, so that you can avoid as much as it is possible damage. Like you take part of the open with silicone.
But the top
Now-
is attached to the silicone.
Yes,
So we have.
but we have
how.
Which
It's better to collect talc with clothing than toxic.
Yeah, but afterwards you can clean that.
Yes.
It's possible, yeah?
This is it's from
Yes,
this.
yes,
But from the silicone,
Yes.
that's the part. We don't have that.
I have never seen that.
We don't have. We don't.
No.
so it's possible.
I mean, we can see it here.
Yeah.
We put some dark and we can see it. Now, there is a second reason why at least I've learned to put the dark. And this is when you have to do with clay, you have the various types of clay. That's a very, how we can pores. It can have pores, yes. Yes, they're very fine, these ones. It can have also larger. What can happen is if you're using the very close here, the several types of this silicone. Some are more fluid, others are less fluid. I think we get the light one, but not the super light one. So it's fluid, but not the total fluid. So when you are using the one that is very fluid, or even this, depending now of how coarse this is, or it has holes, it can have damage, you might have the issue that this penetrates in the holes, and then when you remove the silicone, it takes part of, you cannot remove it easily, it takes damage again, the object takes part of the object. So this is also a way that at least I've learned is to avoid that to close the fine holes, so that you do not so that your fluid material does not penetrate it, and then you have issues when you are removing. Okay. So this is the reason why we're using tile. And then I would take this closer to me. Yes, okay, this is now fine. This works fine. I will take this closer to me, except okay, if I stand up, I usually sit, but you might want also to stand up if you do not have to sit. And what I will do, okay, what you will necessarily before you start doing it, you will need, I don't know if you do this, you will need some hard pen, some hard brushes, and it would be good to have several varieties of them. Okay, it would be good to have the thick ones, the round one, and the flat ones. And it would be good to have even thinner ones than this, okay? Depending on how fine your surface is that you want to document. If it is very fine, you need a thinner one like than this. If it is a larger surface, this would be fine. I think I'm going to do this now. If what also would be useful is if you do not have a thinner one that is appropriate to you, you can take this one and cut with a scissors this surface. I don't know if you've seen them on the cement, and you can leave the surface in the middle. And what is good also is that you cut the upper part and you make it totally straight by doing this. This becomes even harder. You are doing all these things because at the moment that you put the silicone here, you want to press the silicone like this in order to make sure that as many of the bubbles that are created in the material come up, and then you do not have bubbles in the actual impression, which is really frustrating. I mean, it's a huge challenge. I have bubbles always do. The thing is, like, if you are trying to document something that I don't know, 0.5 millimeters, and then you have one bubble, you know, it's really frustrating. You can't see it. So I can never avoid totally bubbles, but there is a huge difference if you do this correctly of how many bubbles you have, and if you don't do it, at least in my experience. And why am I saying this? Because my most life, I didn't do it correctly, and it took me many years to learn it. And I think now I've learned it, but I have not made it. I have not made it. I cannot do it perfectly. What I have learned, however, and I'm going to show you this, but I'm telling you already at the moment so ideally I could have also, you could also cut this to be, you could have also, I'm sorry, some others of this which you could have cut it to be here at the edge, because this is even harder, okay? So you have to see how it works for you. So now, what I will do is, and I will do it, and now I will put the first layer of silicone here. You have to move fast, you have to move fast because this happens very easily, and it's better that you don't work summer, but if you work in the summer, you have to work even faster. Then you put a first layer of what you want to document. Then you press your silicone into the surfaces in which you want to go, okay, quite fast and quite hard, I would say, obviously without damaging the object if it's possible, okay? While you're doing this process of working here with the brush, try not to go outside the silicone and against it. Okay, try to stay within your silicone. This is what I found is very important, because the moment you take it out and you go in again, I think you introduce energy. At least this is the way I've understood it from my trials. The moment I realized I do it like this and I stay within the silicone with my actual brush, then everything worked better for me. And the same goes, I forgot to say this, for your tube here. When you introduce your material with your tube, try to introduce your material, staying in contact with your material, not going away from your material and then again, because like this, I find that air is introduced. So try stay by your material. And it would make sense now that I see this obviously that this works much better with the dips, because the dips are even finer, so it stays within your material. So I will do one layer, you will see, and then what we will do, and I would suggest you do it also, but that is not the question what you want to do also later on these objects, but also now that you are starting, then you have to have a way in which you write what is what. This is very important. You see at the CMS,
Yes.
how many issues we have when they don't have a numbering.
Yeah.
So what we have, I don't know, you don't have them here, I didn't tell you to get them, is we have little cards, little
Labels,
that are little labels that are hanging from a string. So on the first layer, after we have done this process of pressing lithograph, we are putting the string with the label, and then on top of this, we are putting another
Maybe we can link like a coin to have.
whatever. Yes,
Okay.
you can bring it if you want. Now, sometimes, especially when I was starting, I was thinking, what with the labels? Now I was stressed that everything will work, and I let the labels out. And then I very much regret it. After today, there's no other way in my experience that you can write in this silicone. I cannot write with a permanent marker. I cannot find a way to do it. What you can do. Okay, there's something that I forgot to tell you, but I will tell you when she comes. Yes, okay, everybody, you don't have to do, I'm telling you what I'm doing and it works for me. But you can use it, yes, if this works for you, maybe it's better.
To remove. You have to put something to help you to remove silicone.
Or not.
Yeah, because this is the main thing.
I move with my fingers.
Just, yeah,
Yeah, but very carefully. I wouldn't remove like this,
yeah, just
Well,
from
it's-
one side.
very careful and not like that, because then you lost everything.
Okay, is it then to describe your sample on the silicone or not? On the back?
You can't.
You
You
can't
try.
Yeah,
I can't. This is why I'm so much credit. When I have silicone in which I haven't used a string with the editing, I can't find a pen to try to me. And the back of the sample is also not very regular. So for me, at first one, I don't need this. I myself, so why they were using it? Because I made silicones, and there's no way that I can write. And that's a problem, you know, it's a serious problem.
so how you describe, the samples?
Yes, I thought, can I take this? Oh, we have them here. It's that, maybe this. Can I take
This should be
yours?
What do you want to do with it?
No, so
Just to show.
That's so. I use this. That image. What's it as just here? I use
It's
it.
in the tax for the
This
street.
I take this. I put it here. And then what's in the front?
Okay.
So we are having it in front of me. No, I didn't want to remove it. So now that I got this away, I have to say also something like this, because this was not, I thought this was not an issue with the impressions, with the textiles, but I see now that it can be, so I'm saying if you have this type of object, and you want to document the whole of it, one possibility is to document the whole of it down to its edges, okay, up here. The other possibility is that you do a frame here and make it flat with your with plasticine, like you make a flat like this, and then you put your silicone all over here and you put it also on the frame of the plasticine. Okay. What this will give you when you remove the silicone, will give you your object and around it a nice flat frame. If you want this, okay. If you want to do this, however, it takes a little bit more effort because you have to make sure that you attach the plasticine exactly at the edges that you want your silicone and stop documenting the object. And you have to make sure that the silicone does not, that there is no opening, let's say, between your object and and the plasticine, otherwise your silicone will go inside. And when you have it then, it will be, you will have your nice impression. And around it, you will have parts of silicone that go upwards. This is really extension. So if you want to embed your object in plasticine, make sure that your plasticine has a nice regular surface and that it touches and that it closes together with your object, like you don't leave any gap between them. But okay, now we don't need to do
When we are waiting for that, I actually said that when you are in your the first layer, you are even push
Yes, yes.
That's why everyone does this. If you should think on the side of the.
I wouldn't do this.
It's right.
First of all, why should I do this? Because this
Because you are sure there's a and then our side is when you're growing with there won't be an option like that. You know, I am technical.
no, that's not
My brains.
how we have that. This how can you learn everything? I learned this for
Yeah, but I will
make sense.
growing.
Absolutely. What does it, what we do this to?
It's we say.
No, it's not plastic, although it's not plastic. This is the package. You could do this, or you could press with your hands.
Yeah.
Something that I do.
Yeah.
I do with my, and also with the silicone, I press with my hands. But this is not water. It's not like water, but it's fluid. So if you notice, it will not bring you anything, it will just make it messy.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
But please take the idea that you have. So I tell you, I'm trying to explain this method to be done. I would like to tell you some digital. What did you do? Okay. So you have this, let's say that you have this and you have a thick stamp. So what I will do is, let's say, you have to make sure that you have all the instruments that you're going to use while you're making your impression have to be next to you. Okay, this is important. And you start, now it's the first time that I'm demonstrating this with anybody, I think. So when I'm doing it, I'm very concentrated, I don't speak. And always, practice from Millennia I've done, always, for some impression, my heart is just like this. Yeah, it's not. But yes, it's better not to speak to anybody and really have your concentration on your object, no matter how many you have done. Because every object is different and every object needs its own way, then to take care of it. So, next part now. Yeah, this is a little bit too thick for me. I don't have anything. Yeah, I would like it thick. Because it doesn't, yes.
But is it because of the silicone or because the lack of the ending?
The lack of the ending.
Okay.
But okay, because of the lack of the ending, we can do the whole surface. But it is a little bit too thick, but let's go. And you have to go slowly, but not too slow. Okay. But you know there is a finer one, eh?
The silicone, fine, that one.
The purple one.
Um,
But it doesn't matter. This is the one that we have.
we did not.
Doesn't matter. If you
Fine.
want very fine things, you can take the purple one. I do not, yeah, I think it's purple. So this is quite, I have to tell you, because this is also new to me. This was quite a thick layer of plasticine. It's quite thick for my liking, okay? But let's see how it goes.
There's a question.
And now you have this issue that I was telling you before,
Because the type of the silicone and the type of the ending.
So,
The tip, yes, and
Yes.
just, box or something. What you know, so. Okay.
So you see now it's nice, okay, we've done it here and we go back to the issue of having a frame or not, okay, we have not made a frame here, okay, we have put a frame on the two parts and not on the other two parts, and you see that you have an issue here, because your silicone here goes further down, something that will disturb you afterwards, whereas if here on the parts that you actually have the frame, it stops it from going where you don't want it to go. So we'll see how it will turn out. So you try to make this regular. And then you wait. Nice. So now, depending on what you're doing, if you well, now it's just too much more depending on what you're doing, on how everything has gone, you can put a third layer or not. You will see how it is. So you get that. Now the problem that I see now here, what we are going to see, is that this has a frame here and this part doesn't have a frame. And we have to see how to tell this part doesn't have a frame. So what I would do is you can control this. If you have your tips, sorry, I'm talking always about the tips, you can control this in a way. But if you have your tips, you can, and you say, I do not want to frame around this. With your tip, you can put the plasticine all around the object without it going in front, without it going out. Sorry, at all. Now here, as we had it, because we didn't have the tips, I suggest, I think that it would be better if we had put the frame on for all 4 times. It would be and now you have to wait, and obviously now you clearly see why it would make sense if we have another and another one ready, so that we can move from one to the other. Just one thing I want to say.
Okay.
If you do this with molds, you have to have several classes, because you don't work with very well, second and a third and a fourth. Maybe the second will manage, but the third and the fourth, you're going to be frustrated if you're not going to do it. So you need to have several of the brushes, okay? Sorry.
I was thinking whether we can try that one with the crab to see what's going on when we have the crab.
Yes, okay, this, I would certainly put, although you say how much stuff are you going to put there? Well, you are going to put concept I'm afraid if you don't put calcium on this, yes, put calcium on this. If you don't put calcium on this, well, this silicone might actually not be fluid enough to get in here. The purple one that's even light, I think it's super light, would probably go in there. But I would put, I would try to fill it. Yes, I would try to fill it. Now, you have to be careful. This is not easy.
No.
Now
it's somehow.
I mean,
Actually from 2008.
yeah, something half inch.
Not even a quarter of century.
So you want to do a whole of this?
No.
Well, we can't because we have a thick.
Maybe the wool one as well.
But with the wool, I thought we can go for putty. This levels of putty. But
Yes, I will go, yeah, okay, but you can also do like.
but like a technical question, for putty, do we need a pistol?
No. That is not easy, but it is like you are using plasticine. I would love to do putty all the time because this stresses me, this whole process, it's like this. It's complicated, frame, especially with silk because they are small and you always have to do a frame. If you have this, okay, you can do it without. But it is a fact for me that the party doesn't record the finest detail, even the Panacea doesn't record the finest detail that they see here.
I thought that we use consultants and the ceramic knowledge as research and progression and passed from the servers. Yes, I think so, yes. Maybe you can say about this, because I think it's the case for the place ceiling that they were consolidated before you could make the impression.
The ceilings are consolidated before we make an impression, because if they're not consolidated, you might have issues. So I have worked, at least I have worked with ceilings that were consolidated. And if I saw that they were very fragile and not consolidated, I didn't necessarily do the work. But consolidation is, I mean, I don't consolidate, you have to ask me conservative.
Yeah, of course, but we do not think that the battery we were working with was ever consolidated by any.
But it might be fine also, yes, but it might also work finely with pottery that is
Yeah.
not consolidated. I have worked often with older material, and this older material was also very often in the meantime always dressed with paralloid, and I cannot be 100% sure that they are so hard that I think
It's parallel.
it's parallel.
Or that's well, not that's it.
Although some of them can also get very hard and serious in excavation because they have been accidentally fired. And you can work on them also if they're accidentally fired, and you can see them whether they're hard. But there are some, if you have, and I have also had in my hand others that are powdery to the texture, there I would be very careful with them. Because before I do something, especially with silicone, I think, and with this type of silicone, I think, ask, I'll consult the conservators. I wouldn't go with silicone to something that has a powdery texture, but if it's hard and polished, then go. I think you can do it. What you can also do is go on a small part of your vase first and try it. Even maybe not on your small part of your vase, but on a small part of the surface and the impression. And do it there, and then remove it. And if you think it works fine, then you can do it with the rest of the face. So I would be careful, but I think you can do it. Also, what is important is that I say I wouldn't put that much. Yeah. With a finer brush, you can put it much finer. You can put it finer. The thing is also it defeats the purpose because it puts on a large amount, and then I'm trying to remove it. Okay. But okay, at least you see here it covered the. So now you have to
Clean your brush, you make another brush.
take another one, but with your brushes, you always have to be. But can you? You see, I don't.
Maybe we can do it.
Maybe you can do it out. It's normally when it's hard. Maybe it's consolidated. This you don't want to do this. You have to wait until it's hard so that you can remove it easier. What I did now, it might damage your brush because it's very frustrating when you're sitting there. You do it too early, and then you have a brush with silicone hanging with it, which you cannot remove. Now this you wait. After this 20 minutes, as I told you in my experience, you don't need to wait that much. But it's better to wait a little bit more than removing it before it is, when you think it's hard, but you don't have patience to remove it. Because if you remove it before it is hard, you have two issues. One, your silicone might be damaged, as all these attempts that you did. If it's not hard with the interior where you actually placed it, then when you remove it, then part of it will not, the printed will be damaged. And then you don't want any material that has not hardened to stay on your ceiling. Okay, you can remove it afterwards, but you want to avoid this. So I would be careful, and I would wait this maybe a little more than you are on the safer side. Now this became too thick here, but now we can remove it.
And you finish already?
Yeah, the way it's not very. it's
Let's
not
wait,
very-
let's put on the other one and then.
And it's quite thick, I have to say, this thick was, okay, now this is nice, this should have been last, it's very nice, yeah. First of all, this is too thick for my liking. This, as a first layer, for my liking, is too thick. Okay, it turned out as it turned out to be, because we didn't have the tips. Another interesting fact that we got here, and it's relevant to our work, maybe not in this specific case, that hasn't caused any damage, but it could cause any damage, is when you're putting the first layer, you have to make sure that the second layer that goes on top goes fast enough so that you do not have the first already hardening and the second going on top fluid, and you mix them both on the surface of the object, and then you have an impression, of your impression, but then you can see that the two layers of the silicone have become hard at separate times. So you don't want to have this actually here. And if you don't want fast enough, you could also have this on your impression, the impression that you want to. You might ask why. I already put the first layer of impression and then I put the second. Yes, but sometimes you see, especially if you have the tip here, that as you work with your brush, the first layer might become very thin. The impression might silicone will still be there, but might become very thin. And you put the second layer to make it thicker, and you push again. But if the second layer, if the first layer has already started hardening when you put the second, then in the surface of your impression, you might see this phenomenon. And this is frustrating because you have to do it again. Well, depends. I don't know, but yes. Now,
Now
I'm
about
very,
after.
I'm very happy because I'm not afraid much.
That's the moment.
Yes, let's see the moment of too thick. Now, this is too thick. It's too thick for any liking, and this is also problematic. The fact that we let this thing go so down here, because it makes it even more difficult at the removal. So normally you shouldn't have this. This is a mistake, okay? So what I do, I don't know, you remove it with this thing. I would
But
go.
not with the stick, I applied the stick afterwards.
You apply the stick afterwards. Okay, okay. So I always go very carefully from the sides, looking also at the object, holding my breath. And I remove it very carefully, and it should not be that thick, because if it's so thick, it doesn't also have the flexibility that we want in order to remove it easily. Yes, so we're going to you are very careful now. Don't look at me like this.
You're looking with excitement.
No. So this makes, you see that this makes my life difficult now, this thing here.
Yes.
Okay, so you see why you want to avoid this, and it's better to have this on all sides. If you do not have a tip. Okay, so you see. So you still use part of it later, but okay, I have to say also, it could be that I did this. I didn't put that on the sides. Okay. So it takes much from the sides. And very, very carefully.
For this, I don't know what to say.
Okay.
It's like, I was wondering if it would be possible to use a temporary consolidant like cyclone, don't be same, or something from that. To temporarily consolidate a friable ceramic and then take an impression, or it will obscure the impression too much. I don't know how to answer this question because I don't even know what this suitable income. Yes.
Maybe for conservator, question for conservator.
We don't have this experience, but maybe it's an idea, yes, that maybe it's possible to do like that.
Right,
So, okay, this is interesting because I was worried about this part, but I didn't give too much attention to it. And I didn't even put talcum, but it was already fragile, I saw.
Yes,
There was a little part hanging there.
yes.
So when you have a little part of the clay hanging, don't do other than that and put silicone over it because you will have it on your silicone. Okay, it is, but it was expected. It couldn't stay there because it was already with scraps all around. So this is what we have. Do you want to see?
Yes, we want to see it under microscope now. I think it's a good idea to see how it's looking the object. We want to make the
Okay, after you make it, I continue now. After you make it, what you do is you take your mic. Can I continue?
yes,
I want to tell you something.
but I would like to show this to the guys who are still on Zoom, like how do they look under microscope? If you find it that, so I would like to show that object, yes, exactly. But first I would like to show also the object. I hope you can see the, no, so let us have a look at the object.
Very much. Positive.
To okno dynamita.
What we can see now, there's like traces of the talcum, but they're actually,
Are you crazy?
they're actually doing well, I think, because now the imprint is more visible, but I think they could be cleaned with talcum, with, no problem.
Well, with alcohol.
Yes.
With, I don't know. you
Always
have to see what
alcohol.
you do.
And the color of the surface is a bit changed, so this is the original color of the clay. And now it has like, up here we can see that, it left like the greasy coat or something like that, yes?
This I want to say something.
Okay, so you will say, and now have a look at the imprint. I think it's, again, it's nice.
Zoom, the zoom on the focus of the microscope.
So you can see the imprint, and it's very little actually of the clay coat on the imprint, I think. It's not much, it's.
Can you focus it? I think you have to change the lighting because it doesn't show.
No, I think, can we take the main lights down for a second, just so it's on the screen?
Yeah, you can like combine,
Oh.
because I think it's like focus, we can still play with the lights. For example, like that. But,
Okay, this is the issue here. I didn't press that setting. So I think this is the thing of experience. And you know, the deeper part that you see, then you have to observe your object quite well. You have to know what you're going to do, and you have to know where its part is. And then you go, the first thing that you do is you go on the deepest parts.
but I mean, the imprint is pretty legible. I'm not like playing now with the adjusting, but I think you can see that it's, the cast is, enough sharp for making measurements and like further examination. This is what, okay, it's very well visible. So like the lights, the like more even better visible. So I think it's, and what you suggest for this when we have the surface, which is like, a little bit darkened.
No, I can't, suggest, I would say, what I would say, this is what I would you, that we have to take into consideration that we cannot avoid this effect. We cannot avoid this effect, that you will have traces, it's oily, it wasn't know what it is, it's fact, it's oil, on the object, so in effect, if you did this on part of the upper surface of the object, you will see what you did.
Yeah, exactly, so it will be, we can see also the imprints which were done by Aldana. Where we not like the, not imprints, but objects, that they have trace of silicone, can I show that on this one? So it's, again, the surface, as you can see here, I think very well, the surface is like clearly affected by the silicone. So this is something which museums can find problematic. So, let's go back, to packing perhaps. Shall we try with packing one?
I think the issue that we have is what are we allowed to get the information? I think this is a huge issue that we have raised here, that you bring that museums might find problematic. One thing is we try to go to do everything digital, and this is why I asked you before, but maybe you said we're losing this space. Maybe the next generation will be as it will us.
Or, and it depends on the object. Yeah. Like for some objects, we can go on with more invasive, documentation techniques, and on some objects we cannot, and then we have to rely on documentation. Like service, like to drive them out, and after the impression was taken, it was invest with acetone. This is a good tip perhaps, we don't have acetone now.
I wouldn't do acetone by myself without being a conservative opponent or conservative opponent. I would rather, ask a conservative. I wouldn't do parallel, it's pronounced. What I would do, and this is important, is I would have always a set of new soft and hard brushes with me. New, I mean, not the ones that you use at your process. Before I give the object back, I would try to clean it. Carefully with soft, in soft ways. Like with my brushes, I would have here a soft brush, where is the object, okay, let's see here. I would clean it. I would try to give it back, regardless of whether there's somebody checking on there or not. With my soft brushes, under your microscope, I would try to clean it, to bring it back to the state as possible as it is, and was at least not to leave time for me there. And you can have also, I would use soft brush there, but you can also have a hard brushes, because maybe for somewhere, if you feel like you might need to clean.
And, Emma made a very important, comment, like how much the second impressions impact on residue analysis. I have some impressions on the inside of ceramics, I would never take the impression from the inside of ceramic if I'm going to use this inside for the residue analysis. So then we can only start with the digital methods and never try anything. But can we like place the silicone on that? So we will see, yes, this one, so we will see the graph, and then we can put cookie on the other ones. And then we still have two clays, yeah, and plasticine. And if I may comment also on putting layers of silicone on the backside, It also causes the issue if we want to see this object under microscope, because then we again have to stabilize the silicone. Because if it's the backside, if it's two three-dimensional, then we need to put first plasticine, then glue on its silicone cast, and then to have a look on it if you.
If it's big enough, you can use a knife to make like a plaster this. Yeah, because you can easily cut the silicone.
Yeah, but it's elastic and it's really very difficult to cut.
I think it could be possible, but anyway, this is, yeah, but it's something we have to consider. Okay, and now maybe we can put more light easier. And now I'm also excited about CG at the moment.
So you want us to get grab?
Yes.
So I'm focusing on the cut. Do you want me to do the whole thing?
You can do the copy.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay. I got to go fast.
It is like, the other comment which was in Polish would say that it's exactly how you apply silicone on the showers to make them. Yes. But we archaeologists have a lot of skills.
So here I'm trying not for it to go on the sides.
Yes.
I didn't manage perfectly, but I tried to put less closer to the sides, okay? So that it does not go on the sides. But you know, some parts I managed better, other parts I did not.
From the cookie.
Now we're hoping that's the frost. For winter.
So here on top you can go easier, eh?
Mhm.
You don't mind that much now, if it's less.
And you
What
want
my-
to use the same end after that. I mean, you will not change it that. Oh, no. but-
No, you don't. You don't need, this is the whole point. If you wait till you change the end, it's harder. You understand?
Yes,
If you change, it's, this is the whole thing. So, ideally, you don't want this to happen. So ideally, in order to avoid, I would do, I put a little bit too much silicone. I would put, if, where is your pen? If your surface was this, I put silicone up to here, but I think I would put even less. Okay, I would put them in the middle.
Mhm.
What I would do, however, is, I put maybe in the middle, but I make sure that I have put in all the places that have a negative. So if you have a negative coming out here, I would go like this. Okay? And then I would go with my brush.
Okay. And now while we were waiting for that one to be ready, can we try the party?
Yes, so, Patty. Has already, yeah, we have. Okay. So if you want to do, then whatever method you are using, whether you have plasticine, you are not, you have this silicone or this silicone, whether you have hands or gloves, between one method and the other, which you clean. Yeah, you clean your surface, and you wash your hands, you change gloves, because if you don't, this, after you make the best impression, you will have little pieces of this. Okay, so you don't want it to be frustrating. Or if you are working with this already, it is okay. Here you don't need. You might do it with your hands because it's quite soft, partly. So in plasticine, you only have 4 plasticine here, and in the plasticine, then you will actually have this. This is practically destroyed. And so you can, I don't know.
Another, okay, another working step.
And then what you have to make sure, thank you, what you have to make sure,
And another, wait,
what you have to make sure, is, okay, normally it's, usually it's half-half. But actually, practically, if you can learn it's half-half, practically, it's like sometimes it's more one, base and catalyst base. So it always, depending on what you are using, check how many parts of this should go with how many parts of base, okay, obviously. So I think, where is it?
and do we need that kind of a container? Do we have to measure?
No, you don't need a container. This is easy, actually, this is easy. If you want, but this can make my you. I'm gonna say if you want, we can also make one without it, but the argument, she does it without them, and it works for her. I don't dare, I have not done it without that, although I would like to do it without that, definitely.
So
But
let's
I
go
have-
without the thousand.
I have ended with that, and then I did with typing for this, because of the two reasons that I gave. Now, if you want, we can try here without the typing.
Let's do that.
I'm going to make more search, but you will have time to try with this one, the typing one. So this is half. I hope here it says also impression material in the end, because it doesn't give you the input. What exactly it is, you have to make sure that you don't put this on this, not that it makes the switch, you guys. Okay. So.
The same, because we are not.
Yes, no, but why is the fact, no,
It's not the same.
that's a yes, so. Yeah. So how much shall I take now? I will take. No, I.
Or a knife or here. And do we need, like, we don't have the knife here, unfortunately. Like, if you like to use the knife.
They have a scoop.
Do they have the scoop?
Yes, the phone, they come.
No, but it should be the scoop in the
No.
box, no?
Yes.
Maybe it is, no.
Okay, doesn't matter, now.
We can use the phone.
Okay. So this goes, the same, this has the same principle and it's all much easy, so you decide whether you put your card or not. Put now we're not going to put. And you take whatever your bots tell you, now that there is half, usually it's half, but I don't know, sometimes it might be 2/3 of one and 1/3 of the other. So, or, yes. And you have to set down the material that you want. Now, again, this doesn't harden, I don't know, as fast as this, but it's also hardens fast. So what you have to do is mix them. You have to make sure that you mix them well, okay? So otherwise you have this discoloration and it might also not work. So you have to, the challenge here is you have to make sure that you mix them well. Yes, you mix them half and half. Because if you put less of the hardener, you might have some issues in removing it from your object again, okay? So you don't want to have, you really don't want to have this because yes, don't want to have. So you take part of this, and you take part of this, and then, well, At first.
Yeah.
You will try them.
Yes.
You can see it also from its color whether it's mixed or not, okay? But don't mix them like for 5 minutes because it's going to be hard. And then you cannot work it. At first take 2 little pieces, mix them and let it dry to be sure that it all works fine from this pattern. Okay, now it should be fine. And if you don't want, then you have. Now it should be fine. Yeah, no, I don't know if it's fine. I don't know. Well, the thing is,
Don't eat your sound.
you are going to see this now. That if you haven't mixed it well, and I think I might have not mixed it perfectly, it will have cracks on the surface of the impression.
Okay.
You can see this.
Okay, but the sound which we can hear here in the room, like is is it like because of the mixing of the 2 things, or is it like natural sound for this thing?
What sound do you think?
There is like a special sound which it makes when you apply it on the object. I will be quiet now, so maybe you will hear.
It's not because of the glass.
It's from the glass.
It's the glass. But I have this, if you see them, but you haven't seen it because it's not published yet, I have worked with this on a very large surface. And documented everything very well, but on the various parts of the surface, I have cracks because I didn't use this correctly. And we might also have this here, we have to see. Now, what you want to put, what I will do also with plasticine, is when you put this on your object, press it, so that it can go on the deepest part. And what is the best that you can do, which now you observe your object, like you observe your object before you actually apply it. And you know where the deepest part are, where the impressions actually are. And these impressions, and in this area where you have the impressions, you press with your fingers, okay?
And Patty, can you inscribe it?
Yes, you can describe it easier, yes.
Okay.
You can describe it. If you keep it like we have on the archive, oh, okay, yes, this is a mistake. I don't know how, I pressed, yeah, I don't know, this is a mistake, you should
I
not.
mean, we've been writing at this drafting you.
Well, after talking. So, and then you'll have it.
I don't
The
know.
color, it seems nicely mixed, but I don't know, I just wanted to say this. If I was too late in putting it, and then, or if I didn't mix it too well, then it will have cracks. We will see how. So,
Can we have a look at that one? Do you think?
Ah, yes. yes, please put on.
Breathe.
Okay. Have you fired?
Yeah.
Yes. I like them more than the other. I like her more.
Then are there like smaller because of the firing, or they were mixed?
Not that these
Because we also made like the ones in this cooking, which we found are perfect, and then we came up to realize that they were too large for the RTI, so we started to make smaller ones.
Which means we just started to use a smaller glass actually,
Yes.
so.
But this was also the issue, that we were not thinking about the RTI, let's say, option, so we just did whatever we found like useful, and it was too much, it was impossible to make like the entire object via RTI, so we had to make them, we didn't have to, but we decided to make them smaller.
Okay, now, what you have, what I wanted to say before, what you do whenever you make, when you have this, you immediately see the problems, because I don't see what worked, I see the problems. And I have to tell you, I knew that this was going to happen because I moved very fast. So here, you have several bubbles. And this could be avoided. This could have been avoided if I wasn't moving that fast and I was moving more concentrated. That means if I had seen beforehand where my impressions are, and the first thing that I do when I'm working with this is go on top of this very carefully, and then put on the rest. Okay, I went from the start and I did it like this, in kind of a blind way. I did this generally, okay? But what I would do, because I would make a second of this, I would see this and I would say, okay, where are they? I put my silicone there, and then I would go and so that there is a string here, there is a string there, and there is a string there. I would go first with these ones, and then pass to the rest. And then you would avoid having here, well, you don't have it on all the strings, but you do have 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know how you textile specialists call this part. How you call this part of the string? Or you have it for, you have like on some parts of them.
This is the thing.
You have the button. This is what you want to avoid with your brush. On the other side, because your spec is not based in parallel, is it?
No,
So it shows clearly to you that when they are nicely fired or baked, then you have much less danger than this part of your object.
We have a nice comment from Maria Consuela, who said always use 2 different spools, or it's like that Maria rightly did different hands to be possible. Never use the same spoon for the rest. And let us have a look at right now.
Maria, ask Maria, because Maria has a huge experience on this.
And she was commenting already.
You have to ask her now that she is there, what she does to avoid cracks in the material, in the pattern.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Hi,
Yes, Maria.
hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't be there. What you said something about the cracks? My audio is not very good.
If I'm using this pattern, I will see what. If I'm using pattern,
Is it the patty? Yeah.
You're going to show it for camera.
Here is
Okay. If I am using this pattern, I
Yeah.
mix the two parts together.
Yeah.
I make sure that they have the same,
Yeah.
they have a nice uniform color, and then I apply it to the object. What I have had happening to me, especially in larger objects, is
Yeah.
that when I remove the impression, there are cracks within the pattern, because parts of it have not blended together. It's a similar problem that you can
Yes.
have practicing. Do you have this or not?
The thing with this putty thing is you have to. It is very difficult when you have a big portion. Because and the problem is that the time that you have to make this dough is very limited. There is a very limited time window, and so if there are several factors, for example, it could be that you picked a bit more, a bit less from one or another factor, or it's a bit hot, or it's a bit cold, or perhaps you didn't do, normally when the color is homogeneous, then it should be mixed properly. But then if there is a 2-second delay of, if the thing starts to set while you're pressing it, then it could be that in some areas, it's not probably, so it is a problem. It is a problem, particularly if you have a big surface. But then again, putty is very convenient for bigger surfaces and flat things. This is what I've used it for. But you get far more detail with the fine silicone, the one from the cartouche thing.
Do you use this?
Yes,
I
I
use for that large surface. Would you use this? Oh, sorry. Would you use
Yeah.
this to document such a large surface, or until to what point would you go?
It depends. It depends
Yeah.
on the first the object, how brittle or how sturdy it is. I mean, for pottery, which is normally a bit more solid as, say, clay, ceiling, whatever, which is more brittle, I would rather go to putty. But I would I mean, from my experience, all silicones leave stains. This is why we ended up always adding this very thin layer of paralloid, thin paralloid glaze, somewhere between 8% paralloid or even 10%. It should dry completely, and then a very thin talc layer, very even, and then the putty followed in order to take the impression. And only after the impression was taken, one could clean that with acetone and completely remove all rest, which of course, yes, it is a procedure. You cannot always do this. You must have a conservator at hand. But this is the safe procedure. I rarely had any stains after following that. This was also developed with a restorator back then, 20 years ago. Because we started doing just like only with the talc on pottery, taking impressions, and then of course there was this horrible stains, and we couldn't get them. It would sort of soak in, even on the shirt. Now, yeah, it is. I mean, by now I find putty convenient, but and there is less material waste, and these things can also go quite long. I mean, we had packaged in Tirins, and it had expired long ago, but I did try it last year, and it was still good to go. So it is. You can go a long way with this thing. I find it does need some experience to handle it properly and to get proper results. Now, if you have very sharp details, like very thin fibers, perhaps the thin silicone would be better, just for the very crisp, getting the very crisp details that later on we saw in the SAM. I think the other one would be better, but yeah. Oh, I would love to be there, but unfortunately I couldn't come.
Thank you, Maria. And I would like to show you on the Dynamite what we did. Now also with the part, which was impressed, so you can clearly see the loss of data. I hope you see it sort of well. So here is the cord. It's line. It's not line, but it's flat. And then we go to this imprint. Let me focus.
Now covered with talcum.
Yes.
Sorry. No, it's okay. I have something to remember.
And you can see the crack, which looks pretty much dramatic, actually.
But you also see the microstructure of the glass.
Yes, but
That's
we
that's
see,
really
like with
nice.
the talcum actually, and this is something I will try to make it like this. And actually with the talcum, this is really like a nice thing because the microstructure is sort of enhanced on the original imprint, I think. If we compare it to not powdered imprints, so maybe powdering imprints is not such a bad idea in general. Maybe they need some powder. And now we have so we can see that the loss of information is quite substantial. Let's put it like that, and let's make it more short. Perhaps it's here, it's perhaps a little bit better visible.
About the microstructure,
But the microstructure is like largely lost. Make it, let's make it larger. But the microstructure is sort of visible, but it is lost, I would say. Largely lost. I mean, if we compare it from the original imprint, it is largely lost, and we have this feature, yes. In the middle. Which is also like the kind of an issue. Are you ready to see the patching?
Yes.
So. So I will make it. Again, like that you have the view of Maria removing the party. And then shall we try with FEMA? And can we apply FEMA on the flax which was already powdered? What do you think, Monica? Or you would rather have a fresh imprint just to see?
I'm afraid of the pottery that it's too much moisture inside them and it could be damaged.
Okay.
So I need to check this right now. Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Okay, and you should always have a scalpel.
We do have, but in the room upstairs.
For example, here where I made this mistake.
Okay, you have, I will bring the card.
Wait, now it's not that.
No, but I have some out.
You should always have a
I think it's so that.
Marek, and what would ideally do is again, if half months, you are that's all the rest of my series. It's very good. So basically, bottom. Of course, but yeah. Okay. Like saying no. See, like this. Yes, clearly. Which ideally you should have. So ideally, so material all around the rest. So you can have your edge, then you wouldn't have this issue. But now I'm putting it too much material, so this is why we have this issue there. Okay. So it's not only interesting.
And this is why we choose this because of the title.
Okay.
There is not the word.
Not with your colleagues. Or sorry, for having but your mess, not the what you can do for your second month song, some very so you can remember. Needs to get me to that. Okay, no, I do. I just tell you. I'm good waiting for that.
But maybe as soon as Agatha comes in, maybe you just also want to look at some images here. Because there you would have direct comparison between the raw material and the actual project.
So I want to make 2 points. Yes, of course. Okay, so the one thing is we can finish with this.
Okay.
Is that whatever you can do, whatever you can do with your artifact before you give them back to the museum, which is a simple thing of respect, you do it without in any way, in any way. This is why you have your artist cleaning branches, and with the branch, you can remove this. It will still stay like here, but you can remove a significant part. And then I would suggest ask for you have to have discussion with the conservators if they want to afterwards, but don't give them a thing that's totally unclean.
Yes.
To the extent that you can clean. Okay, so we have to clean our own mess when we can. This is the thing. And the other thing is here. It turned out well. That is, we don't have the issue of the cracks that we were discussing with Maria. We have another issue. I should have put a little bit less of material so that it doesn't go, if it is possible, here around. Because when it goes here around, we see the issue that I have. Maybe you don't mind, but I mind because I photographed these things afterwards, so I don't want them to have this. They have this ring here, and some here is still fine, but sometimes if you have too much, like here, then it covers what you actually want to see. If this happens, it can't happen. This won't happen to this extent, but it might happen more. You can carefully, now it's your object anyway, but you can carefully, this shouldn't have happened to me, you can carefully from a side in which it is staying, you can remove it, okay? And then you can nicely photograph it, or you can nicely have it in your collection, okay? So you try to avoid it if it happens, in some parts of it, then you can do. Or you can remove what you do not want. Yeah. Okay. But it's better, but you try to avoid it generally. You have to remove from your whole face just because it saves you time.
Okay. I will sew it under microscope, and it's full, so this one is like a difficult one. And then we can try formulate, Monica. So Monica is preparing her.
So can I go?
Okay.
I don't need,
So I think you can already see the difference, like the impression is much less clear because it's of wool, yes, so you can immediately see what is the problem with wool. How unclear impression that it leaves. And here we have the original artifact that we don't need this. So here is the press, which was impressed. And here is like the it's imprint. And here we have this part with silicone. Let's try.
If you did not powder it, then this is why it's so tricky.
Yes. So we can see that there are some like clay particles on it. But I don't know if we can have like a more dramatic look, probably like this. But it's really difficult to see actually microstructure. As you can see, microstructure is lost, to be honest, with Baki. We don't see it. And also we don't see much details, even technical details. And when you ask me what is like S-like or Z-like, I would say this is like S-like or Z-like, that I have the feeling that maybe here I can see the twist, but for example, here too, but like okay, maybe also here, but this is like at the edge of the recognizable twist and like suggestive twist that you have some indication, but if you want to be honest and to say why do you see it twisted in that direction, it's really difficult to explain. So this is why it's like. Okay, so we stop now.
Something on this, since you have it there, I think in the one, in the impression that you had, just there, I saw a large part of the clay having in like small holes, and I think it's like pores on the human skin. And I think, I don't know, but I think that if we had put silicone, these little pores would have closed, and maybe we wouldn't have all these little parts of clay, I think.
But still, I mean, in terms of the impressed microstructure, Paki is not the favorite one. But
No, it's not yet.
okay, okay, Timo.
Yeah, so I use this one, particularly female clay. Visible right now. Of course, I use gloves because I don't want to put my fingerprints on clay. So, and also this small thin rollers tools preparing flat piece of the clay. You know? I opened this clay hour ago, I guess, because I don't like, and I guess it's much better for the objects when it's the moisture, it's not as moisture as I put it right now. Yeah, if I put it right now, it will be too much moisture and could be dirt, ceramic pottery. So yeah, so I put it on the table. Do it rolling. Take it and do it something like that. So try to put pressure evenly on all this object. Because if I don't do that, it will be not even impressed. Yes.
And what is also important is that FEMA has different colors, so it's possible to not only use this white, but
Yes.
whatever color is better for like digital devices, and for me, it's like green, gray, these are better colors.
Okay. That's all.
And can we have a look under microscope? So,
So, and more, quicker, yeah.
okay, so now it's impossible with this piece to see whether the plate has left any traces. Because it was already used for silicone, so it's covered. But maybe we can try with another piece to see whether, Monica, whether FEMA leaves like traces on the object.
No, if I use it,
But you can try like to demonstrate
Take
it.
this one? Can I take this one?
please do it first.
And have a look. I think that the microstructure is really very well visible. Yeah, it's like that, it's FEMA. So I find it like, it's better than the original. What can I say? I like it a lot. And Monica has produced a lot of the positive out of FEMA, and they are fragile. So this is something they have to be handled with care. It's not like that you can do everything with them. They are fragile. But I mean, the quality is, I would say, quite impressive. I don't know how you find it.
Make them, because we tried on flex plate. There we have this, and then we have
Yeah,
a comparable, because they
we did not check how a FEMA is altering the measurements. This is something we still have to check. We did not manage it, so we cannot say, because perhaps shrinkage would be like the issue. We don't know yet. We were not comparing the different. Yes, it's very hard. He's knowing that now.
Also how it's always.
Yes.
Another one?
Yes.
Very quick.
Okay, so now let us have a look at the object. Yeah, you can see that there are no any traces on the object.
Orders, yeah. Kind of.
Here, yes, there is like a tiny,
Yeah, but to remove from the water.
and you can see that like otherwise they're like here perhaps and here, but it was not powdered, so actually the damage to the object is minimal. And then let us have a look at the imprint. It's really nice. I mean, okay, here you can see some particles of clay, but again, it's not as much as we've got from the silicone. And now if we compare the silicone, okay, for the microstructure, it's also like good, yes, but the surface is less. I mean, we have these issues about that one.
Just the issues of bubbles is not.
Yeah,
for the-
but I mean, this could be avoided if applied more carefully. This we already know. But to be honest, I think that if we compare, it's also really fine. Yes, isn't it? Okay, so let us try now this gray clay, which is like another thing. But again, can we like apply to the same object? So
I have one more. Reflects.
You have also plastic and then, yeah. Okay. I will show the product me.
Okay.
This is something we were not trying, so I know that it was used by some scholars, but we were not trying it ourselves, so we are also wondering about the result. And maybe it requires powdering. We don't know.
Can I ask for the film, will you make it?
No, it's that hardening. After 24 hours, it will be drying up and.
But this is the issue that it dries for 24 hours.
That's good, it dries. And then after it dries, it keeps its fine.
Yes.
And it keeps forever.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
And and the only thing we have to check is to compare the measurements. Because Monica took measurements, because I mean, my point is that if you take measurements from the original imprint and then from its past or positive, they will always differ, yes? So our point was to make the measurements from the positive when it's fresh, and to make the measurements from the positive after it dried for a long time. So now we have like over months of drying. And we want to make the measurements again from the positive and see whether they differ enough.
A month is enough, but
It's more than months actually. But it's enough, it dries in 24 hours.
So if at the moment it dries, perfectly dries, it doesn't shrink, then you have no issue that
No, exactly. And also, I would say that if the shrinkage is minimal, because we take the measurement with the accuracy
You will also
of the
need the
third,
plate.
it's not decimal
Yeah.
point, it's like, what, how do you call it in English, when it's the third after zero? It's not decimal, it's like, decimal is 2 after zero, and when you have 3 after zero, it's what? It's still decimal. Because in Polish, it's not decimal anymore. Decimal is it's up to 10, and if it's up to 100, it's like 100. But whatever, what I wanted to say is that that we take these measurements, which is like kind of over mathematization, because we still work like with things which were handmade, so they were not like the measurement catch at a certain point does not reflect the measurements of the entire object. So if the difference is not huge, if it's not like from 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters, then we would not correct it, actually. And now let us have a look at, again, the original object. I think we can see here this grayish thing. Yeah, it's another layer added, I think, to the original object. And let us have a look. Oh, it's too, I think it's too shiny. It's not as good as Prima, don't you think so? Let us perhaps try it. I think the surface is a bit too shiny. What's your opinion, Karina?
It could cause problems with imaging, but maybe
No,
it
no.
can be.
It is shiny. Sir, open it, I see it's very shiny.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not
So shiny.
Yeah.
Maybe this particular one is too shiny, but I would, this shiny vibe would be to me like a no. And again, I think we see like traces of it somewhere. And there, and then that's okay, here. Yeah, here we have clear, but we're not adding powder.
It's kind of what it's get inside from, and then another one. So
But here I think it's like larger cuts, so I think that microstructure is actually seen well, but these shiny particles are a big problem, actually. Maybe they added it for Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
But this is something we definitely do not want, yeah. It's enough that we have them on pottery actually. Yeah, and plasticine would be the last try. You again, but for plasticine, I think you have to voucher it.
Na świeżo. Wezmę szkle ceramiki, to już to nie jest używane. Ale ja na świeżo. Ale wiecie, tego ceramiki ile nam trzeba?
If you want to have a look at it in larger magnification, we can. Yeah. Yes, the other one is. But we can't do, if you cover some of the colors, so that people see that. But they were well seen on some like this. No, because yes, here you have silicone, you don't have and your silicone for the one, and do we have the silicone for the first thing that the one with the label? It should be somewhere there. Yes. Okay. And here. And Monica, you have to tell us what is the.
Another one is plasticine, technical practice plasticine,
Which should be like a grease free.
something like that, yeah, yeah.
No, it's not that. But
In my opinion, it's too hard to be difficult to make imprint.
But it's social.
Yeah.
Boundary, there's now even that. I, So we can see that trial of today, with plasticine. And for the plasticine here, we see the original imprint. We don't see much traces of plasticine. We don't see this. Did you powder it or not? Without powder. But you can see how flattened is the impression. And this is actually something which I've seen on some in the temas that some were flattened.
Yes, because it wouldn't go that deep. It's you have to work it in a unified mass, which takes time, and then you have to press it in, and then what you did with your fingers from the back, you have to do it quite intensely. But when you are so deep, as in the festos spec ceilings, it no matter how much you press, it can go up to certain points.
And again, I think for the microstructure, I think it shows microstructure well, to be honest. When we can see the microstructure, here it's flattened and we can see the fingerprint. And let's have a look again at our favorite one. Again, I mean, here it's sort of fine. Or in here. But here, what's going on here is not visible. FEMA, I think, rules because yeah.
And using the bold, everyone.
Okay, so let's have a look again at FEMA, and then it's plasticine. No, this is FEMA. No, FEMA again rules because we can see the detail, like we really see it was like old house. Sorry. No. And probably we can have a look what we have, what comments do we have on the chat. It's from Maria again about FEMA. Have no experience with FEMA, also will be very excited to know about the shrink. And this is something we're going to tell you because we're going to take measurements. So you will all receive this information. How much does it shrink? So you will be provided. And from a probably we know that it shrinks a lot depending on how lead cautious it is wide working. But we can correct the scales digitally since we have the real object. And show in case of documentation of the past, like the temas, where you don't have original object. The silicone is better as it is more stable. And the plasticine is the last material we're trying. Yes, that's true. So, and we will, as I promised you, we will also give you the measurement. I also think that FEMA would differ according to the size. So we will give you information about the shrinkage of this particular one when we take the measurements because it's possible for us to compare the measurements like today. And I'm sharing the screen. And now,
Here we have something that's very nice because we have here the microstructure of the hair, which is quite nice in the impression. And I think also somehow here
it's really nice.
and here the original. Right, the microstructure.
Yes, we start.
And here we have the her, shiny hair of Karina, I presume. And it's FEMA imprint. And the you can see what it is. I think it's going and it's in my best, or like, yeah, it's. Yeah.
Again, so check not to use it. This, is right.
The other thing we have now is the scale of,
Not like that.
Yeah.
but I mean, here, it's like what I define as the broad strands or broad streaks, it's really like, it's super motion. I think that it crashes here.
So.
It's rough. He might have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, and they are okay. So I'm like, yes. Okay, so I think that with that, we're ending our workshop. I thank you very much for staying for such a long time with us, especially to Maria and Anna, because now that it's good, I can hear and that's all my choice, but Emma and Maria, I thank you very much for being with us for such a long time. And we will send the link, the recording as soon as I will have all the names of people with you from you. And we will let you know when we're ready. So we will have the information about the product. So that's all from us. Thank you very much. And it will show next time to Maria, which makes it with this problem. So bye. Bye.
So,